This podcast episode is sponsored by Palumbo and Bertrand, attorneys at law.
Good day, seniors and active adults. Welcome back to our YouTube podcast, Get Your Weekly Slice, where we protect, inform, and educate you, our seniors and active adults, every week about what you should know as you age. It is about keeping you, our seniors, in the know. This is episode 2 of Real Conversations, and this one's going to be pretty close to hitting home because we've experienced for the last 2+ years. It's the pandemic, and there's a lot of rumors, a lot of what ifs, whatnots when it comes to the vaccine. The good thing about the vaccine is that we all have that option of choosing to get the vaccine or not. It depends on our counsel from our doctors, different doctors. As people age, they have different doctors. They get opinions from all of them. And it depends on what they share with you and how you receive it if you go forward with the vaccine. Now, I think at this point in time, we've all have known someone who got the vaccine and they're okay, or they got the vaccine and they passed, or they didn't get the vaccine and they passed. So there's all kinds of stories out there, rampant as they are, regarding the vaccine. Again, it comes down to what you're comfortable with and what you want to do when it comes to that vaccine. And keep in mind, they're at that point now. We also have the flu vaccine, which is an annualized vaccine, given the upcoming strains that are out there. And now they're considering to do an annual vaccine for COVID. So just keep that in mind. Understand that, again, it's your choice. But I guess I want you to think about some of these things. I want you to think about your life before the pandemic and now after the pandemic. I know that personally, working with a lot of seniors and active adults, I do know that some never went out to eat. Some went out to eat all the time because they live alone. And that's a way they get their social interaction on a daily basis. And I know that there are pros and cons about the mask. Does it work? Does it not work? It's entirely up to us as an individual what we want to do. And I do know, and I have noticed of late, there are people still wearing the mask. But understand, when they talked about the mask and the proper way to wear the mask, they wanted you to put the mask above your nose. But I'm seeing more and more people who are wearing the mask, but they're wearing it underneath their nose, and that defeats the purpose of wearing the mask. So I want to share my story and what I chose to do. And several years back, I had some heart stents put in. And I never in the past ever got the flu vaccine, or the flu shot that was given out or available on an annual basis. I never got it. Never did it. Wasn't going there. Until this came about. And because of the stents, and they advocated that people who are above 60, who had health conditions, those type of things, it would behoove them to do it. So I chose to get the vaccine and the boosters. And knock on wood, I haven't got the COVID, and neither has Susan. So, and both of us, we've done it together. We've got the shots, the boosters. Now, on an annual basis, I'm getting the flu shot, which again was recommended by my cardiologist. And, I'm going back to when it first came about. My cardiologist said in his 20 years, he's never seen anything like this. And his suggestion at the time was is just get the vaccine and the booster. So I did. I had already made that choice. But I guess I look at it this way, and they talk about this, that there might be long-term implications that are going to affect us potentially from taking the vaccine because it was put on the market and put in place so quickly. And I guess my view on it is that if that's the case and it's a long-term effect that comes into play 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I guess I've won that battle because I've lived that extra 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that's the way I look at it. And I know that I would suggest, even though you might not have gotten the vaccine, that you still live your life. And I know that it's difficult as we age because it appears, and I think it's the truth, as we age, we become more fearful. And I do know that the news puts that fear of God into all of the seniors and active adults out there because let's face it, they don't have a lot to do. They're confining themselves to the house so they don't get the COVID. And they might have underlying conditions which might allow them to be more susceptible to getting COVID. So what do? They sit and they have the news on all day. And as far as I'm concerned, the news is a negative purveyor for all of what's not good for us. So I believe that it's in our best interest not to listen to the news, or if you do it, pare it down some, because all they do repeatedly, day in and day out, day in, hour after hour, talk about the ramifications that COVID's going to have and the amount of people that are dying, et cetera. And I guess I view it is that it's like a flu, and it depends on the individual. It depends on the individual how they react, or if they're susceptible to getting that type of COVID. So I want you to keep that in mind. And I know it's difficult for people, and it's another issue to worry about. I want you to worry, but I want you to keep it in mind because you're worried about COVID and you're not going out and you're staying at home. It can lead into loneliness, depression, anxiety. And that is starting to increase with people who live home alone, especially seniors and active adults. So I want you to be cognizant that that could be an issue with the pandemic. And I'm seeing it, and I'm speaking with counselors about this very issue, and they're starting to see more and more people that they're counseling to combat loneliness, depression, and anxiety through this pandemic. It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody. But again, I'm going to go back. You need to live your life. This is not living your life. If you confine yourself and you're feared by all of what's could happen, eventually what might happen. And I think that's one of life's issues, that we're always thinking about what can happen. And we're at this point, we don't need to do that as we age. We just need to live our life. And I'm going to give you a solution that Susan and I, we always have gone out in the past. And once we started coming out of the lockdown with the pandemic, we would still go out, but we would choose the times that we would go out. And most of those times were at happy hour. When they first opened at 5 o'clock, we would go, we would eat, we would have a couple drinks, and we'd be out of there by 6:15, 6:30 before the people started coming in. So we were able to live our life, do what we did in the past. We traveled. And when we traveled, we adhered to all their policies, wear the mask here, there, etc. But when we traveled, we did it during the week when there weren't as many people out traveling. We didn't go on the weekend. We didn't go on the holidays. For the most part, we stayed close to home but we still lived our life. We were able to travel. We were able to still go out. And again, I'm knocking on wood, neither one of us ever got the COVID. And I'm not saying we're never going to get it. There's a good chance we might get it, but we're vaccinated and we feel comfortable where we're at with all that has been said and done. Now, I also want to let you know that during the COVID lockdown, I was able to place a friend, a senior who was 93 years old, into assisted living. And there were some changes. I mean, she couldn't go to see the apartment that she was going to potentially live in for the rest of her life. She couldn't go look at, we had to do it video and that. And I brought my laptop over and we did it. We did a video so she could see it. But she lived alone. And she didn't have a lot of people that came and visited her. So I want to share that there might be that fear that if you move, there's a potential that you're going to get it. But that's not the case. Most of them are vaccinated. Some, if it's in an independent assisted memory care community, some of the independents have that choice, again, to be vaccinated or not. When it comes to assisted and memory care, their health is in a declining state. Therefore, they're pretty much mandated to take that vaccine, to live there, to be amongst the people, and visit, meet, greet, that type of thing, and live their life in the community. But the good thing about living in the community is that they have social interaction with different people all day long. Whereas if they're still at home, they don't have that. So that complicates things. So, and one of the other good things about the pandemic is that if you have friends, keep in touch with your friends, especially if they're seniors or active adults. Keep in touch with your friends and your family via phone every day. That could potentially combat some of the loneliness or depression and or anxiety that you might encounter. So those are just a few of the things that were on my chest. I wanted to share them with people because I noticed that pre-pandemic, everything was moving along. Everybody was happy, attending events. They were coming to the seminars. I was informing and educating them. And now after, it's a whole different ballgame. People still, again, it goes back to the TV. They're watching TV. Potentially, they're reading the newspaper, and all it's doing is spewing negative connotations in regards to putting fear into you with the vaccine or the pandemic. So I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest, share with you where I'm at, what I've done, some of the solutions, how Susan and I have lived our life. And I'm hoping that you guys are at that point where you're frustrated and you start thinking about living your life like it used to be. In closing, I hope you enjoyed today's Get Your Weekly Slice. If you'd like to discuss further today's topic, you can reach me via email at mike@your, Y-O-U-R, Florida, spelled out, Haven, Haven.com, or call me at 407-340-5291 to set up an appointment. I provide a free 1.5 hour in-person meeting to discuss your future plans on aging while providing you a minimum of 3 options to choose from. Don't forget to follow us and like us on Facebook and Instagram. While on my website at yourfloridahaven.com, sign up for my monthly newsletter, RSV to any of my in-person events, which are held at the Orange County Library, Smarter Senior Seminar Series events, and to view any and all of my videos and podcasts. We hope these podcasts are helpful, and if they are, please share with your friends, family, and neighbors by letting them know what we offer as certified senior housing professionals, designated real estate agents, to our seniors and active adults as they age. We're a connector. It is about keeping seniors in the know. Till next time, when you come back to get your weekly slice.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Palumbo and Bertrand, attorneys at law.